Vitamin B3 is known for increased alertness, clarity, focus, memory, enhanced mood and energy. It's a potent antioxidant and a free radical scavenger. It lowers LDL cholesterol, increases HDL cholesterol, and it lowers triglycerides. Vitamin B3 is one of 8 B vitamins. Niacin is a precursor to the coenzyme nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or NAD, and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, NADP. The NAD is needed to catabolize fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and alcohol, and NAD is involved in cell signaling and DNA repair. The NAD also converts to NADH. This is the primary carrier of electrons in the transfer of food from your diet into energy. This energy is then stored as adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. ATP provides the fuel for the mitochondria in each of your cells. Not enough NADH leads to ATP depletion, and this can eventually lead to cell death. The Russian-designed nootropic Picamillan is a combination of niacin and GABA, and it's used to improve memory, concentration, focus, relieve anxiety, and lower blood pressure. Studies have shown that supplementing with niacin improves cognitive function, it enhances cellular energy, boosts cerebral circulation, increases endurance, switches off aging genes, and extends the lifespan. Niacin, as a precursor to NAD and NADH, repairs cell and DNA damage, and it stimulates your immune system. Niacin boosts the production of nitric oxide, and this relaxes the blood vessels in your brain, increasing the cerebral blood flow. And niacin acts as an antioxidant, helping to eliminate free radicals that can damage the brain cells. As a precursor to NADH, niacin provides electrons for ATP synthesis within our mitochondria for the cellular energy. Low levels of niacin result in brain fog, slow mental processing, and cognitive decline. Niacin affects cognitive function by stimulating the production of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. These neurotransmitters are involved in memory, learning, cognition, recall, and mood. Vitamin B3 is a precursor to the coenzyme nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD, and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, NADP. Niacin is found in and critical for the health of every cell in the body. NADH is the reduced form of the NAD, making it the active form from which it can donate electrons. NADH is the primary carrier of electrons from glucose and lactate for ATP synthesis. ATP is the fuel that's produced in the mitochondria, the power supply in each of your brain cells. So you need niacin to produce the NADH to transfer the energy from the food that you eat into a type of energy that your body can use. Niacin naturally occurs in foods like eggs, fish, meat, milk, peanuts, mushroom, green vegetables, and yeast. Your body also naturally synthesizes niacin from the amino acid tryptophan that you get in your food. This synthesis requires vitamin B6, riboflavin, and an enzyme containing iron. But only about 2% of the dietary tryptophan is converted into niacin, and this is not nearly enough. This is why supplementation is needed. Niacin supplements have been used to treat addiction, ADHD, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, depression, memory loss, and schizophrenia, and for detoxifying nearly every foreign substance that can find its way into the fat cells. As a nootropic, the niacin helps to boost cognition, memory, and neuroplasticity. Niacin is the precursor to NAD. NAD acts as an electron carrier, meaning it can accept and donate electrons to various enzymes involved in energy metabolism. NAD is transformed into NADH. NADH then donates its electron to the electron transport chain, where a number of ATP molecules are formed. Using niacin as a supplement increases the available NAD molecule that can take part in the energy metabolism and increase the amount of energy in each cell. By providing the means for ATP synthesis, niacin is involved in cognition, focus, concentration, memory, and processing speed, and niacin plays an important role in mediating brain aging and tissue damage. even decreasing the damage done by strokes. Researchers at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston studied the neuroprotective effects of CoQ10 and niacin in mouse models of Parkinson's disease. Impaired energy metabolism has been associated with some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Researchers administered MPTP, which is a poison to the neurons. It disrupts the energy metabolism of the neurons that release dopamine. The affected dopamine cells are also unable to release as much glutamate, which results in decreased dopamine in people with Parkinson's disease. The combination of coenzyme Q10 and niacin protected against both the mild and the moderate dopamine depletion. The researchers concluded that the CoQ10 and the niacin improve the mitochondrial energy production. Brain-derived neurotropic factor has been termed miracle grow for the brain. Higher levels of brain-derived neurotropic factor have been associated with increased intelligence, mood, productivity, and memory. Researchers at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit tested the hypothesis that niacin could increase synaptic plasticity and axon growth in stroke patients. Male rats were purposely given a stroke and then treated with extended-release niacin for 14 days. The niacin increased synaptic plasticity and axon growth as a result of the restored brain-derived neurotropic factor. Another study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showed that the niacin stimulated growth hormone. Niacin deficiency is considered rare by the government health agencies, particularly in the West, but even mild niacin deficiency can have a negative impact on your health and your cognition. Mild niacin deficiency can be caused by digestive problems that decrease the amount of vitamin B3 or tryptophan that your body can absorb. If you're gluten intolerant, you're at a higher risk of being niacin deficient. If you have irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease, you have an increased chance of a niacin deficiency. Excessive alcohol consumption, birth control pills, anorexia, and those on a vegan diet can be deficient in niacin. Energy levels decline, fatigue increases, anxiety, hyperactivity, depression, headaches, and hallucinations can occur. Metabolism declines, insomnia can increase, and irritability can increase. Some experts believe a lack of niacin and other B vitamins is at least partially responsible for the large increase in mental health disorders and violent crime in recent decades. All of these niacin deficiency related changes are contributing factors to the neurodegenerative diseases of aging, age-related cognitive decline, including Alzheimer's and schizophrenia. But even if things haven't degenerated to such a debilitating level, the niacin can still help. Research has shown that people with low niacin levels are far more vulnerable to addiction, depression, heart disease, schizophrenia, and other chronic conditions. Low niacin levels can happen at any age, even at birth. Supplementing with niacin has been shown to help those who are at an increased risk of heart attacks, stroke, and other forms of heart disease. Niacin can also help to reduce hardening of the arteries, or atherosclerosis, and assist in avoiding heart disease, and niacin helps to reduce inflammation. Niacin plays a role in diabetes treatment because it helps to balance blood sugar levels, and niacin helps to reduce skin inflammation, flare-ups, irritation, redness, and for treating severe cases of acne. Niacin supplementation is also associated with a decreased risk of age-related cognitive decline, memory loss, migraines, depression, motion sickness, insomnia, and even alcohol dependence. Niacin is also used for treating and to help to prevent schizophrenia. Studies show niacin supplementation lowers the risk and the severity of ADHD. It's also an effective treatment for erectile dysfunction because it acts as a vasodilator and it helps to improve blood flow to the penis. Niacin supplementation can help to relieve depression and anxiety. Circulation should improve and you should feel like you have more energy. People who take statins to control cholesterol report severe side effects, but when adding niacin to their diet, most experience a reduction in the blood pressure, and some have even stopped taking their statins as a result. Those dealing with obsessive-compulsive disorder report combining niacin with St. John's wort reduces their symptoms. and it was better than using an SSRI like Prozac or a benzodiazepine like Valium. Taken before bedtime, some users report a reduction in insomnia. Lower back pain and hip pain can be reduced with niacin supplementation. Niacin can also reduce severe acne and other skin inflammation problems. Therapeutic doses of niacin have been shown to reduce the serum cholesterol. Niacin significantly increases HDL or good cholesterol, decreases the LDL or bad cholesterol, and decreases triglycerides. Changes in blood lipid profiles considered to be protective of your heart occur. Low levels of HDL cholesterol are one of the major risk factors for coronary heart disease, and an increase in HDL levels is associated with a reduction of that risk. The Coronary Drug Project was conducted between 1966 and 1975 to assess the long-term efficacy and the safety of niacin in 8,241 men, aged 30 to 64 years. All the men had experienced some type of heart problem. Compared to a placebo, patients who took 3 grams of niacin daily experienced an average 10% reduction in total blood cholesterol, a 26% decrease in triglycerides, a 27% decrease in recurrent heart attacks, and a 26% decrease in stroke. If you're dealing with chronic health issues, chances are good that you could benefit from a detox program. Even if you're feeling perfectly healthy, you could likely use a detox. Simple living in the modern society exposes us to thousands of chemicals that have the potential to get into our bodies from the food that we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the things we touch. One study done in Portland, Oregon, investigated the effects of a 7-day detox program on well-being in 25 disease-free, healthy participants. The 7-day detox produced a statistically significant 47% reduction in metabolic screening questionnaire scores and a 23% increase in liver detoxification capacity. Even the healthy people feel better after the detox. In 1977, L. Ron Hubbard developed his sweat program to facilitate detoxification. The program includes niacin, a sauna, and a supplement regime to restore critical vitamins and minerals to the newly detoxified body. The niacin detox program has been used to treat Gulf War syndrome, the firefighters and first responders of the 9/11 attacks in New York, and it's used by hundreds of naturopaths. Niacin affects adipocytes, and these cause an increase in free fatty acid release from the adipose tissue. The release of the free fatty acid releases the fat-stored toxins for excretion from the body. Niacin also causes prostaglandin D2 release, and this dilates small blood vessels in the skin, the same reaction responsible for the niacin flush. This dilation increases the movement of xenobiotics or foreign chemicals for excretion through sweating, which is where the sauna comes in to the detox program. Niacin is also a precursor to NADH, which regenerates the master antioxidant glutathione. And niacin reduces inflammation by decreasing reactive oxygen species and inflammatory cytokines. Niacin is especially helpful if you're taking antidepressants. Drugs to treat depression have an anti-inflammatory effect, including inhibition of the rate-limiting enzyme of the kynurenine pathway. This metabolic pathway is involved in the production of NAD and NADH. The inhibition of this pathway increases serotonin as more tryptophan becomes available for serotonin synthesis. More serotonin helps to decrease depression. But this also leaves less tryptophan available for niacin synthesis, and this causes depression, and it basically cancels out the benefits of the antidepressants. So if you're on SSRIs, you might want to add niacin to your diet. Dyslipidemia is the name of the condition involving high LDL or bad cholesterol, high triglycerides, and low good cholesterol. Dyslipidemia is closely related to erectile dysfunction. Researchers in Hong Kong ran a placebo-controlled trial with 160 male patients with erectile dysfunction and dyslipidemia. Half of the men with erectile dysfunction received 1,500 milligrams of niacin, and the other half received a placebo every day for 12 weeks. The main outcome of the study was a significant improvement in erectile function, and the researchers concluded that niacin alone can improve erectile function in men who are suffering from moderate to severe erectile dysfunction. Niacin is naturally produced in your body from tryptophan, and you get niacin from eating certain foods, including beef, chicken, tuna, sunflower seeds, salmon, green peas, turkey, and mushrooms. So niacin is considered non-toxic and safe. The higher doses of niacin are usually divided into evenly split doses 2 to 4 times per day. So 2 grams of niacin would be 500 milligrams 4 times per day. For the prevention of heart disease, 4 grams of niacin per day. For lowering bad cholesterol and boosting good cholesterol, 4 grams of niacin per day. To slow the progression of newly diagnosed type 1 diabetes, 25 milligrams per kg of body weight of niacin per day in the form of niacinamide. For preventing or treating vitamin B3 deficiency, 500 to 100 milligrams per day. For treating pellagra, a severe niacin deficiency, 300 to 500 milligrams per day. For treating osteoarthritis, 3 grams of niacinamide per day. For reducing the risk of cataracts, 44 milligrams of niacin per day. For preventing Alzheimer's disease, 100 milligrams per day. For treating erectile dysfunction, 500 milligrams 3 times per day. For treating schizophrenia, 3 grams of niacin and 3 grams of ascorbic acid per day. Standard niacin is naturally produced in the body and is considered non-toxic. Niacin can lower blood pressure, so if you're on blood pressure lowering medicine, you should be cautious about supplementing. Niacin may decrease the effectiveness of diabetes medication because long-term use of niacin can increase blood sugar, so you may need to increase your diabetic medication. Statins are notorious for causing muscle wasting, and when combined with niacin, it can increase this muscle wasting problem. You might want to cut back on your statins as you increase your niacin. Many stop taking statins altogether when using niacin. The niacin and sustained release niacin can cause flushing in many people. Regular intermediate release niacin or nicotinic acid causes flushing in many people, and they avoid supplementing with niacin as a result. Standard niacin flushing results from the activation of the niacin receptor G-protein coupled receptor 109A in the skin's Langerhans cells. This leads to the production of prostaglandins, including prostaglandin D2 and prostaglandin E2, and these act on receptors in the capillaries, the small blood vessels in your skin. The flushing sensation comes from the blood vessel dilation, and it manifests itself as a redness, a warmth of the skin, and a tingling or an itch. It happens rapidly and lasts for around an hour. This flushing sensation is not an allergic reaction and only feels uncomfortable. There's some strategies to avoid the niacin flushing. First, slow-release niacin can prevent the flushing, but it's not the answer because it won't provide the LDL cholesterol or bad cholesterol lowering benefits. Inositol hexanicotinate is commonly referred to as a no-flush niacin or flush-free niacin and is preferred by many users. Even though some clinical trials claim this version of niacin had no effect on lipid profiles, when it comes to cholesterol, user reviews consistently report the opposite. They don't experience flushing with the inositol hexanicotinate, even at the high doses, and their cholesterol and triglyceride levels all benefited and came within the healthy range. A newer version of extended-release niacin, called Niaspan, doesn't produce the flushing effect, and it's been shown to have the same effects on the good cholesterol and triglycerides as the instant-release niacin. One effective way to reduce flushing with an instant-release niacin and an extended-release niacin is to take 325 milligrams of an aspirin tablet 30 minutes prior to your niacin. You can also try splitting your dose of the niacin into smaller doses and take them throughout the day. flushing will be reduced if not completely eliminated, and long-term niacin users note the flushing goes away after about a week of long-term use anyway. Niacin is particularly helpful for vegetarians because very little niacin is available from your vegetables. It's especially helpful from people suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome and ADHD. It's suggested to start with a dose of 500 milligrams per day, and niacin is a great complement to a stack including any nootropic. Do your best to use either free-form niacin if you can tolerate the flush, or even better, use an extended release version of the niacin that has no flush and no associated toxicity. You need to provide your brain with the nutrients, including niacin, to create ATP within the brain cell's mitochondria, or neurons start to break down from the inside. Signs that you're lacking adequate niacin are brain fog, slow thinking, fatigue, and low endurance. Some clinical studies in the US and other countries are using niacin therapy as a treatment for addiction, anxiety, depression, chronic stress, and even schizophrenia. It's recommended starting with a low dose of niacin until you build up a tolerance to avoid the niacin flush. Then increase your dose every few days until you get to the dose that gives you the most cognitive benefit. At the very minimum, every user should be using a multivitamin every day that includes some niacin. For more information about herbs, supplements, and natural treatment plans, check out my website.